Hola mis amigues, Kai Nuevo. Welcome back to Karina's Adventures. Today I am interrupting my usual broadcast of writing related videos because I wanted to share with you all something that the Lord has been teaching me over the last couple of months and just kind of share the things that I've been learning. Perhaps it will be a blessing to you on your journey with Jesus and kind of discovering who you are in Him. So, something that the Lord has been showing me over the last couple of months is I am becoming more aware of the influence that our American culture has on me and the way that it has been affecting my mindset and the way I view myself. The more that I become familiar with it and the more it influences me as I have been on social media and the internet more over the last couple of years. Prior to a couple of years ago, I was not really on the internet very much and I was not on social media at all except for a couple of years ago. And so over the last couple of years, I have begun to, be more available, I guess, to the influence of culture through those channels, if you will. And so I have been just trying to be more aware of how my culture is influencing me and my self-identity as I discover that as a young woman. And one of the things in particular that I have been kind of working through over the last couple months is the issue of what our culture says about emotions and what our culture says about dealing with hard things. Now, I'm not going to explain everything that the American culture, the messages that it sends about how women should handle their feelings. Partly because the reasons behind its thinking are more complicated than I want to go into, and I'm sure I don't understand everything, and that would digress from the message that I want to communicate today. But basically, the gist of what I have been noticing is that despite all of the emphasis on being yourself and being who you are and you be you, there's still a very pervasive idea in American culture that strong women almost don't feel. Like we don't feel emotions, we're tough and we can go fight and it's almost like the American culture has tried to reverse the way that God made women. And I understand that, there's kind of this juxtaposition of the American culture saying women should be more like men and at the same time saying that, women should just be women. And that's complicated. Like I said, I don't want to delve into all of that. But basically, I'm realizing that what my culture says about me and what God says about me are at odds in a lot of ways, and trying to reconcile the fact that I am in American culture and I'm experiencing American culture and reconciling that with kingdom culture, with what God says about me and who God says I am. So I just kind of wanted to chat with you all about some specific things that God has been showing me and helping me to handle this issue and, how He's been helping me approach it and learn how to reconcile it. So, a couple of helpful verses for this issue are, there is a place, I will put the verse and the reference on the screen, where Jesus says, "In this world you're going to have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world." So, I know we've all heard this before, but Jesus never said life was going to be easy as Christians. And having Jesus with us doesn't make it any less hard. But what it does do is it does give us hope for the future. But what it doesn't do is make where we don't need to be upset that hard things are happening. We're still humans. We're still going to feel emotions. And as women, we are going to process those emotions in different ways than men do. And you know what? Sometimes as women, we get more emotional than men do. And that's okay. God created us to be different. God created us to be the way that we are, and we don't need to change that just because our culture communicates a different message than what we were created to be. Another thing that I will point out is that, strong men cry too. You know why? Because Jesus was the strongest man that ever walked the face of the earth, and He still wept. Remember? Jesus wept. And if Jesus can cry, and it doesn't make Him any weaker when He's God, okay, I can cry too. Being sad is not sinful. Yes, unfortunately, sorrow is a product of our sin-cursed world, but there's nowhere in the Bible where it says, thou shalt not cry, okay? There's nothing wrong with having hard things in your life and having those hard things in your life be hard to handle. Now, obviously, we want to ask the Lord to help us have peace and to seek Him and to have hope during those hard things, but sometimes life is just hard, and that's okay. You know, something else that God has been showing me about these hard things is that kind of as a byproduct of that message that strong women don't feel, and you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you charge forward and you fight, as a byproduct of that message, I began to kind of have all those emotions that I was feeling, you know, the hard things that I've been going through, not just with the changes COVID has put in my life, but also other things that have been happening over the last year. I began to let all those things get pent up inside of me, and I had all sorts of reasons why, you know. I don't want to let my frustrations or my sorrow out on anybody else. I just want to be strong. I feel like if I hold them inside me for long enough, they'll go away, and none of that is healthy. And I discovered that. I discovered that instead of becoming stronger, that only made me bitter. And that only made me start to take out that hard, bitter sorrow, the sadness and the overwhelmingness and all the other emotions I was feeling in other ways out on the people that I was with. And that's not what I wanted, but it was just a byproduct of me having all that bubbling inside of me and not having any way to get it out. So something that my mom helped me with is, you know, we talked one day about the things I was feeling, and I was telling her about, you know, I feel like part of the reason I've let all these things just kind of get inside me and not let them out is because of the message that our culture communicates. Even though I'm not even in pop culture as much as a lot of people, you know, I don't watch a lot of mainstream movies, and yet somehow those ideas still get into me, which just shows you how pervasive culture is. And, you know, my mom was like, well, you know, we need to talk, you know, you need to talk with people, whether it's me or, you know, maybe someday I'll have other friends that I talk to. Maybe you have friends or family that you trust, you talk to. You need to process those feelings with somebody. Yes, there is something to be said for learning how to process your emotions inside of yourself as well, but everybody also needs to be able to talk through things with other people. And if you don't ever talk through things with other people, you're going to start to get screwed up things in your head because you don't ever hear truth from the other people God made. And God wants us to have fellowship with each other. And He wired us to communicate with each other and learn from each other and help each other talk through some of the hard things of life. One verse that, you know, I kind of liked in line with this was there's a verse in Proverbs, and it says, "The purpose in a man's heart is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out." So there are other versions of this verse that, you know, say counsel in a man's heart are like deep waters, slightly different phraseology. And I really like that verse because you can interpret it to mean a lot of different things. I feel like that's a good verse about, you know, down in our hearts, our counsel, our things we're thinking, the things we're planning, the way we're processing information can become deep waters, murky stuff that we don't completely understand. But a wise man, a man of understanding, a good friend, a wise friend, a friend who is also journeying forward in their walk with the Lord, can help you draw that out, can help you pull back and see what's going on inside of you and realize, oh, I'm becoming bitter because of how I'm trying to handle these hard things in my life. Or, oh, my culture is having this effect on me that I don't really like, and I want to ask the Lord and maybe even seek advice from this friend on how to maybe reconcile what my culture is telling me with what Jesus is trying to make me into. So those are my thoughts for you about what I've been learning about American culture and reconciling that with who Jesus made me to be, and the message that the American culture communicates to me as a woman about my emotions and feelings, and the fact that I'm almost stronger if I don't feel things, or at least if I don't act like I feel things, and realizing that in line with Scripture, that's not true. Life is going to be hard, even Jesus cried, and sometimes we need to talk through things with trusted friends in order to get through things in life, because you know what? Courage is not the absence of fear. This was a line from a story or a script that I wrote. I want to say it was last winter. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing what's right in spite of it. And perhaps a more relevant quote would be a quote from one of my main projects that's, courage is choosing to dwell on who God is and not on your situation. Courage is not just not having any of those hard things going on. Courage is not making those things go away. Courage is taking one step at a time to do the next right thing that you can do in His strength, because He is with you and you are relying on His word and relying on Him. I hope that helps you. A very different kind of video than I normally do. Normally I obviously do writing videos, but sometimes I like to share my adventures in faith as well, because you know what? I can't pour out faith into these stories unless I am growing in my faith and having faith myself. So I will see you next week. Next week we should be returning to some sort of writer-related video, perhaps an organization type video, not completely sure yet. And don't forget to stay tuned because we're coming up on Nanowrimo and you don't want to miss my adventures for that. Have a blessed day. Adios mis amigas y Dios le bendiga. Get out there and be the beautiful person that Jesus is making you and that you already are. Bye-bye.